us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Our Heavenly Father, we offer you our thanksgiving. We thank you for everyone gathered here today to walk with you. May we ask you for your blessings and guidance so that the activities set for this undertaking be successful. We ask you to open our eyes to see the wonderful things from this activity. We ask that you open our ears so that we may retain the invaluable knowledge. Open our minds for us to think wisely. Put us with understanding, cooperation, and peace in fulfilling our responsibilities. Open our hearts so that we may receive your everlasting love, and open our spirit so that we may know that you are with us all throughout the day. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Abba Father, Lord, I call you Daddy. You are my strength even in my weakness. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. You've been a help in this time of pain. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. You've been a help in this time of pain. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. But down on my knees I'm praying, crying to you, Lord, for my strength. There is no other that I can turn to, no other that I can call to but you. Oh, to you, Lord. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. You've been a help in this time of pain. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. But down on my knees I pray. Down on my knees I cry. Turn to friends and they can't help me. Nobody but you, Lord. Down on my knees I pray. Down on my knees I cry. Turn to friends and they can't help me. Nobody but you, Lord. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. You've been a help in this time of pain. Oh, Daddy, you are my strength. You've been a help in this time of pain. Oh, Daddy. That's what they do. But they don't understand. Home is still a push and go through. Yes, they laugh. They call me names, but they just don't get it. Oh, them see me, I hold my head up just the same. When them see me, them just keep on talking. Me not see them, I just keep on walking. I got my pride. Me not gonna show my bad side. Some of them see me as a big pushover. Let me fit dead and think I'm gonna kill over. Oh no, not I. I and I will survive. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them lead you astray. Starting today, live your life and live it your way. When you go through heartache, when you feel in pain, when you end up in a desert and I wonder why the hell it not rain. When them pass them judgments and every word left a stain. When them talk up the things them just to mash up your life and give you bad name. Them think you're weak, but I less of them blunder. Bad mind and think them left your business asunder. Don't give them that power. Show them you can be stronger. Just take up yourself and make the whole of them wonder how you get up when them a try keep you under. Don't believe their lies. Show them that you will rise. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them lead you astray. Starting today, live your life your way. I say, people talk, that's what they do, but they don't understand. Home is still a push and go through. Yes, they laugh. Some call me names, but they just don't get it. Oh, them see me, I hold my head up just the same. Some of them see me as a big pushover. Let me fit dead and think I'm gonna kill over. Oh no, not I. I and I will survive. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Get you down. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't let them get you down. No, 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 no. I got my pride. I got my pride. I'm standing firm. I'm standing firm. Stronger. Hey, hey, hey. They can't do me like that. What? Mr. That.
Witnessed it. True power never comes from. A black girl quietly walked into Brooklyn High School. Her name was Maya Johnson, and she was here to complete her senior year in silence, blending invisibly among the crowded hallways. But before Maya could memorize the locker combination, Ashley Mitchell, a white girl with porcelain skin and a heart as cold as ice, decided that Maya would be the perfect target for bullying. It started with mocking laughs, followed by malicious whispers, and then intentional acts of humiliation in front of everyone. And when Ashley smiled confidently, thinking she was about to deliver the final performance, the whole school gathered, phones ready to record, waiting for the moment when Maya would break. But there was one thing that none of them knew about Maya Johnson. She wasn't just some quiet new girl from Chicago. They had unwittingly picked a fight with a trained fighter, someone who had spent her entire childhood honing discipline and self-control in her father's gym. And today, Maya was going to show them all exactly what that meant. The yellow bus stopped in front of Brooklyn High. The students quickly poured out, making noise as they went. Maya Johnson was the last to get off, clutching the straps of her backpack tightly, trying to avoid the scrutinizing gazes of those around her. Maya was familiar with those looks. As a black girl who had transferred schools multiple times, she knew that wherever she went, her presence was always met with a silent sea of unasked questions. This girl from Chicago, in the eyes of others, was always an enigma. People were not just curious about her unfamiliar face, but also about the stark contrast in her skin color, in a school where most of the students were white. She looked up at the large red brick building of Brooklyn High. The dull gray windows, the narrow hallways packed with people, all of it looked exactly like the school she had been to before. Nothing new, nothing surprising. Maya had been to enough schools, enough towns to understand one unspoken truth. Move quietly, leave no trace, don't attract attention. That was the only way she knew how to protect herself. Maya tightened her grip on her backpack straps, beginning to blend into the stream of students pouring into the school. She moved slowly but steadily, trying not to brush against anyone, avoiding any gaze that might meet hers. But no matter how hard she tried, Maya still caught glimpses of quick, curious stares mixed with doubt. A few whispers passed by her ears, soft and low, but clear in their intent. Maya was acutely aware that she had been placed under intense scrutiny, examined piece by piece from the very first moment. The young girl walked silently, her heart beating with a quiet sadness. Because Maya knew she couldn't stop those stares. They existed as an inevitable part of her life. A black girl out of place in an environment she didn't belong to. The only thing she could do was stay silent, endure, and hope that silence would be enough to get her safely through this final year. Maya had no intention of making friends, and certainly didn't want to stand out. All she hoped for was a peaceful year, graduation, and leaving this place without causing any disruptions. But as Maya walked deeper into the crowded hallways of Brooklyn High, she had no idea that all her quiet plans were about to be swept into a confrontation she had never expected. A confrontation that would not only test her inner strength but change everything she thought she knew about herself. And it all began with this quiet moment. The first day Maya Johnson set foot in Brooklyn High. As Maya walked past the row of light blue lockers, trying to find her locker number amidst the crowded hallway, she could feel the atmosphere around her shift. Suddenly, the chatter faded, and the lively conversations turned into hushed whispers. The students standing near Maya subtly moved aside, almost instinctively, as if making way for someone approaching behind her. Maya didn't turn around, but her instincts told her that someone important had just arrived. Among the crowd parting, Ashley Mitchell stood out. A tall white girl with long, perfectly curled blonde hair. The expensive plaid dress she wore hugged her slim, 18-year-old frame, each step exuding confidence so intense it almost seemed to challenge the world around her. Ashley wasn't just rich and popular at Brooklyn High. She was the one who shaped every invisible order here, a true power behind the classroom doors and school hallways. Ashley never moved alone. Flanking her on either side were her two loyal best friends, Brianna, with fiery red hair and sharp eyes that quickly cataloged anyone who could cause trouble for Ashley, and Courtney, with dark brown hair, slightly shorter than Ashley, the talkative one, but only speaking when necessary. A quiet but incredibly effective ally in gathering information around the school. But what truly made Ashley's group untouchable at Brooklyn High wasn't just their money or the girls' striking looks. What mattered most was the presence of Zach Mitchell, Ashley's older brother, the star of the school's football team. Zach was tall, with broad shoulders like a fortress, always wearing his famous number 12 sports jersey. He had an easy, natural smile, but his gaze always concealed an air of arrogance, a challenging look that made it seem like the entire school was within his grasp. Next to Zach, as a satellite ready to cause trouble on command, was Luke Rodriguez. Luke was lanky, with sharp, mischievous eyes that held an unpredictable cunning. No one knew for sure how close Luke was to Ashley or Zach, but everyone understood that Luke was always ready to stir trouble just for the thrill of chaos. For him, causing trouble was a way to assert power. With her powerful group, Ashley walked down the hallway like a queen entering her court. Every eye, every whisper was directed at them, a mix of admiration and fear. New students, or anyone unaware, quickly learned that if they wanted to survive at Brooklyn High, they had to know their place in the world Ashley Mitchell had established. Maya glanced at Ashley for just a moment, enough to catch the cold, arrogant gaze Ashley threw her way, a look that was both assessing and silently warning. Maya instantly understood the meaning behind that glance. She was the new girl, and Ashley was marking her place. This black girl was not allowed to cross the invisible line that had already been drawn. Maya looked down, continued unlocking her locker, purposely ignoring Ashley's challenging stare. But inside her, a feeling of discomfort began to grow. Despite her efforts to avoid attention, staying silent and invisible as planned, Maya realized that she couldn't be completely unseen at this new school. The young girl quietly closed her locker, tightened the strap of her backpack, and walked toward her first class. But as she left the hallway, Maya distinctly sensed that this was just the beginning. Ashley Mitchell and her group wouldn't stop at just a passing glance. Something deep in her instincts told Maya that she had unwittingly stepped into a world full of hidden dangers she hadn't anticipated. And at Brooklyn High, that silent power had only one name: Ashley Mitchell. The first class passed slowly, and Maya chose a secluded spot in the corner of the classroom, where she could quietly observe everyone without drawing attention to herself. But no matter how hard she tried to avoid it, she could still easily catch the occasional cold, sharp glance from Ashley, calculating, as if she were silently planning something. For Ashley Mitchell, Maya's arrival was the perfect opportunity to remind everyone who really held the power at Brooklyn High. Every year, there were always new students, and there always had to be someone who became the target for Ashley to solidify her position at the top of the social hierarchy here. Maya Johnson, the girl from Chicago, with her quiet, reserved demeanor, was the perfect choice. Ashley was always subtle in picking her prey. Too weak, a student wouldn't attract attention, but someone like Maya, silent, different, and standing out because of her silence, was absolutely ideal. If she could break Maya, Ashley would send a powerful message to the whole school. No matter who you were or where you came from, no one could exist outside of her control. Just a few hours after the first class ended, the quiet whispers began to spread behind Maya's back. At first, it was just harmless chatter like, "She's the new girl from Chicago. She looks kind of weird, doesn't she?" But before long, those whispers turned into malicious snickers. Maya could feel every word cutting through the air, hitting her ears like sharp little thorns. Though they weren't directed at her face, they were deliberately loud enough for her to hear clearly. Does she not know how to dress? Do people in Chicago all dress so tacky? She probably can't even finish a sentence properly. Maya kept her gaze fixed ahead, pretending not to hear the mockery, but her hand instinctively tightened around the pencil she was holding. She was far too familiar with the sting of such hurtful words, just because of her skin color, her background, or simply because she was the new girl. Maya knew that if she reacted, even in the slightest, It would only make things worse. Ashley watched from afar, a subtle smile creeping onto her face as she saw Maya not responding to the teasing. To Ashley, silence was a clear sign of weakness, and weakness was exactly what she needed to assert her position. Ashley leaned in and whispered something to Brianna and Courtney. Both girls immediately burst into loud laughter, deliberately directing their voices toward Maya, ensuring the other students around would notice even more. Amidst the chaotic noise, Maya remained still. She forced herself to breathe slowly, keeping her heartbeat steady, trying to push the discomfort growing in her chest. Maya knew that silence was the only option she had at that moment. But what she hadn't realized was that her silence, rather than soothing the situation, was unknowingly becoming a provocation to Ashley. Ashley despised indifference because, to her, Maya's refusal to react was like a silent challenge. Ashley's pride and ego wouldn't allow a new student to come to the school and ignore her so easily. Ashley Mitchell narrowed her eyes at Maya, a sense of curiosity mixed with growing frustration stirring inside her. Part of Ashley found herself more intrigued by this game than ever before, because now Maya Johnson was no longer just an easy target. She was a challenge, a puzzle that Ashley had to solve. Maya quietly stood up when the bell signaling break rang, quickly walking out of the classroom. She still appeared calm, but in her mind, one thought echoed sharply. Brooklyn High was not going to make it easy for her to have the peaceful years she had hoped for. Ashley Mitchell had officially made her the target, and Maya knew full well that this game would not end with her silence. It seemed the longer Maya remained silent, the more impatient Ashley became. She wasn't used to being ignored, and she certainly couldn't accept the existence of someone who could casually overlook the power she had worked so hard to establish at Brooklyn High. Maya, with her suspicious silence, had unknowingly triggered a deep, primal instinct within Ashley, the instinct of a predator, eager to assert her dominance by taking down her prey completely. Lunchtime was always a special time at Brooklyn High. It wasn't just when the students gathered to eat, but also when the invisible power structures of the school were most clearly established. Who sat with whom, who spoke to whom, who was isolated and who was sought after. Everything was subtly but unmistakably displayed in this environment. Ashley, as the head of that unspoken food chain, always sat at the central table, where all eyes could easily observe. She and her friends maintained a relaxed, haughty attitude, treating everything around them as a little performance for their entertainment. And today, Maya was the unwitting star of that performance. As Maya entered the cafeteria, she immediately noticed a few strange looks directed her way. It wasn't just curiosity, but an expectant gaze, as if they were waiting for something interesting to happen. Maya slowly made her way to the farthest table, the secluded corner no one wanted to sit at because it was so far from the center, and was often considered a spot for those who weren't welcome. But for Maya, it was the safest choice to avoid unnecessary attention. But today wasn't a normal day. Ashley had already set a plan in motion to force Maya to break her uncomfortable silence. Ashley didn't like waiting, and she certainly didn't like people like Maya, those who didn't immediately acknowledge the absolute power she held over this school. So, Ashley decided today she would teach Maya a small lesson, one enough to make the entire school remember that no one was allowed to underestimate her. Ashley subtly tilted her head toward Brianna and Courtney, signaling discreetly. Brianna immediately stood up, and along with Courtney they headed toward the far table where Maya sat. Ashley smiled coldly, holding a full cup of juice in her hand, slowly stood and walked after her two friends. Her stride was confident, each step exuding a clear message of power and defiance. Maya kept her head down, eating in silence, but instinct told her that something was coming very close. She could hear the footsteps drawing nearer, and when she looked up, her eyes locked with Ashley's sharp, challenging gaze. A strange silence spread across the cafeteria. Students sitting at other tables immediately turned to watch, their silence so thick that Maya could hear the rapid beat of her own heart. Maya knew exactly what was about to happen, but she decided she wouldn't give Ashley what she wanted, an angry or fearful reaction. Ashley stopped right in front of Maya's table, her lips curling into a slight but malicious smile. She leaned forward, speaking softly, but clearly enough for the entire room to hear. You're looking a bit lonely, aren't you? Why sit all the way over here in the corner?" A quiet laugh erupted from Brianna and Courtney, joined by the hesitant chuckles of the surrounding crowd. Maya remained silent, staring at Ashley with an unnervingly calm gaze. Ashley didn't wait for an answer, laughing lightly again before pretending to accidentally tip the large juice cup in her hand. The dark red liquid quickly spread, pouring over Maya's tray, staining her food and dripping onto the table. Ashley stood up straight immediately, feigning surprise and calling out in a falsely apologetic tone, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I spilled it." A burst of laughter filled the cafeteria. Curious and entertained eyes were all fixed on Maya, eagerly waiting for her dramatic reaction. But Maya didn't follow the script. The young girl simply sat still for a few seconds, then gently placed her spoon on her tray. Her gaze remained calm, showing no sign of anger or fear. Slowly, Maya stood up, picked up the tray now stained with juice, and calmly walked to the trash bin at the corner of the room, tossing the entire tray into it. Her movements were precise, without any unnecessary motions. The cafeteria fell silent, an eerie kind of silence that Ashley had never witnessed before. No more laughter, no one dared to jeer. Maya's strange composure left everyone awkward, confused, and curious. As Maya returned to her seat to grab her backpack, she glanced at Ashley once more. The look was cold, but not angry. Instead, it was eerily calm, so much so that it felt terrifying. It was a chilling calmness that Ashley had never encountered before. Ashley suddenly felt as though something had shifted in the game she had created. For the first time, a sense of unease washed over her clearly. She didn't understand where this reaction came from, but she knew one thing for sure. Maya was not the weakling she had assumed, and that realization made her feel deeply unsettled. As Maya left the cafeteria, a strange atmosphere enveloped everything. No one dared to speak, but everyone knew. Ashley Mitchell's game might have just begun, but Maya Johnson had officially become a far more unpredictable opponent than anyone Ashley had ever faced before. That afternoon, after Maya left the cafeteria, Ashley returned to her usual spot in the center of the lunchroom. She maintained her usual confident posture, back straight, eyes slightly lifted as if nothing unusual had just happened. But only she knew how fast her heart was pounding inside her chest. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Ashley was used to the fact that whenever she took action, her targets would react clearly. Anger, fear, confusion, even crying in front of the whole school. That was what she was waiting for, complete submission, to prove to the world who truly ruled Brooklyn High. But Maya Johnson didn't respond that way. Not only did she refuse to submit, Maya didn't even react at all. The calm, indifferent attitude of the new girl, invisible in its presence, made Ashley feel like she had pushed herself into an unfamiliar situation she had never faced before. For the first time in her life, she felt the absolute power she had built shaking, all because of someone who did nothing but remain silent. Ashley glanced around the cafeteria. Soft whispers began to spread like a wave, gentle but loud enough to catch Ashley's attention. quick glances, awkward murmurs that quickly disappeared when her eyes swept over them. For the first time, Ashley felt that the curious, skeptical gazes of the crowd weren't directed at Maya, but instead were focused squarely on her. The powerful girl of Brooklyn High began to feel uncomfortable. Ashley unconsciously tightened her grip on her water glass, her cold eyes turning toward Brianna and Courtney, two friends who were always loyally by her side. Courtney immediately avoided her gaze, pretending to be busy with her phone. Brianna gave a weak, awkward smile, as if she too felt uneasy about Maya's strange reaction. The familiar atmosphere had changed, and Ashley could feel it. The faces that used to laugh and chat around her now seemed cautious, maintaining an odd distance as if they were trying to figure out what was really going on. Ashley hated that. The curiosity, the skepticism. Those were things she was never accustomed to. Ashley suddenly stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked out of the cafeteria. Brianna and Courtney immediately stood up and followed, but Ashley didn't stop to wait for them. She walked quickly down the school hallway, her cold gaze fixed on the familiar row of lockers. She had built her position at Brooklyn High by asserting her absolute superiority, by proving that no one could stand against the pressure she created. But now, all of that seemed to pale in comparison to Maya's strange coldness. Ashley knew the only thing that kept her power intact was the ability to make others submit. If that submission was threatened, her power would waver too. Brianna and Courtney eventually caught up with Ashley, walking silently beside her, afraid to speak a word. Brianna glanced at Ashley and cautiously spoke up. "She isn't like the others, is she?" Ashley furrowed her brows. That statement made her feel even more uncomfortable. Brianna had inadvertently confirmed her greatest fear. Maya was not just a normal student, someone who could be easily subdued like everyone else before her. Maya was different, and that difference was what made Ashley feel unsettled for the first time. Ashley suddenly stopped, turned to face Brianna, and coldly demanded, "What do you mean by that?" Brianna was caught off guard by Ashley's reaction, quickly changing her tone and waving her hand in explanation. "I just mean, maybe she's just pretending, like acting tough, but inside she's really scared." Ashley tilted her head, staring at Brianna for a long moment, then gently shook her head, a faint, ironic smile curling on her lips. "No, she's not scared. That's the problem." Ashley said those words, and even she was surprised by her own admission. It made her feel even more uncomfortable. She had never allowed herself to admit that someone wasn't afraid of her. Acknowledging that would be like losing the power she had worked so hard to build. Courtney cautiously chimed in, trying to ease the tension. "Anyway, Ashley, maybe she just got lucky this time. In a day or two, everything will go back to normal. Who's going to stand up to you for long?" Ashley let out a soft, bitter laugh, her gaze drifting down the hallway. But deep inside, the unease only grew stronger, like a dark cloud that was slowly overshadowing her mind more and more. Maya Johnson might just be a new girl from Chicago, but that girl, with her silence and strange coldness, had made Ashley doubt herself for the first time. Ashley knew that if she didn't quickly put an end to this threat, her power would no longer be as solid as before. Ashley walked on silently, but her heart was no longer calm. For the first time in her life, Ashley Mitchell realized something she had always avoided. Maybe she wasn't as strong and powerful as she had always believed. And that feeling of unease was growing in her, quiet but intense. Ashley wasn't used to this feeling of unease. The more she thought about Maya's cold, confusing attitude, the more she felt like she was losing control. It was uncomfortable, like a small cut that throbbed and spread each day, not deep enough to make her stop, but impossible to ignore. Ashley knew very well that if she didn't act more decisively, that feeling would only grow, until even she couldn't control it anymore. And from that thought, Ashley decided to escalate the game to a higher level. In the following days, the bullying of Maya began to unfold in a more systematic and noticeable way. From subtle whispers and light teasing at first, everything quickly escalated into more direct actions, deliberately creating clear pressure on her. Every class, every hallway, every moment Maya appeared, Ashley and her friends always found a way to make Maya feel unwelcome at Brooklyn High. In class, Ashley was always the instigator. She and Brianna often chose seats right next to Maya, intentionally whispering about fabricated stories meant to mock her loud enough for Maya to hear. Each word felt like a needle piercing Maya's mind, but she didn't react. Not once did Maya look up or show any sign of discomfort. She maintained her cold, steadfast demeanor, refusing to give Ashley the satisfaction. That attitude, once again, made Ashley's feeling of insecurity grow even more. So she decided to take things even further. Gym class was always the time when Ashley could most easily demonstrate her power, because the most prominent figure during this class was Zach Mitchell, her brother, the football team captain, who was admired by the entire school. With Zach's help, anyone Ashley wanted to humiliate couldn't escape her sights. And this time, Maya would be no exception. Zach was tall, strong, with a confident look that made him appear like a professional athlete. He was always friendly with everyone, but everyone knew Zach would never refuse any request from Ashley, no matter how cruel it was. For Zach, loyalty to his sister always came first. In today's gym class, as students gathered on the field, Zach gave a subtle glance at Luke Rodriguez, a troublemaker and close friend who was always eager to join in bullying with a particular delight. Luke smiled slyly, immediately understanding what Zach wanted to do. As the class began, everyone quickly formed groups to warm up. Maya always chose a quiet corner, away from attention. But this time, Zach and Luke made a point of walking over to her, casually standing right next to her in line. Ashley watched from a distance, a cold smile flickering across her face as she saw Maya tense up ever so slightly. But Maya remained calm, her eyes straight ahead, trying not to acknowledge the two boys standing so close. This made Zach furrow his brows, surprised by the unusual calmness of this girl. However, he didn't stop. When the gym teacher instructed the students to start their warm-up run around the field, Zach immediately took the opportunity to get closer to Maya. He ran ahead, then suddenly slowed down, forcing Maya to dodge. Her foot stepped off course, but she quickly regained her balance, maintaining her pace. Zach grinned annoyingly, then repeated the action several times, deliberately obstructing Maya, forcing her to constantly adjust her stride and direction. Luke, stimulated by Zach's actions, quickly joined in the cruel prank. He kept pretending to bump into Maya's shoulder as he ran past, each bump strong enough to make Maya stumble slightly, but not enough to catch the teacher's attention. Maya felt each bump clearly, but she still didn't react. Her eyes stayed fixed on the path ahead, determined not to show any anger or weakness that Ashley was waiting for. Maya knew that the only thing people like Zach and Luke were hoping for was a reaction from her, and she was determined not to give them that satisfaction. Ashley watched closely from afar, scrutinizing every movement Maya made. The more she watched, the more she couldn't understand why Maya remained so calm. That cold attitude made Ashley feel like she no longer had control of the situation like she thought. A moment of confusion and disappointment mixed inside Ashley. For a brief moment, Ashley wondered if she had misjudged Maya. Perhaps Maya was stronger than her fragile appearance suggested. but immediately her pride caused her to dismiss that thought. She decided to continue because Ashley had never accepted losing easily. When gym class ended, Maya calmly left the field without a word of complaint. No angry look. That attitude only made other students start to look at Maya with a mix of surprise and admiration. Whispers spread around, and Ashley could hear them clearly. That's strange. She didn't react at all. Maya is really different. Ashley clenched her fist, her heart pounding, realizing that her game had gone much farther than she initially planned. Because Maya Johnson wasn't just silent to endure. She was silent to challenge Ashley Mitchell's power. The feeling of power slipping through her fingers made Ashley grow increasingly impatient. Every time Maya calmly walked past her subtle bullying, every time Maya maintained that cold, composed demeanor, Ashley felt her pride being wounded more deeply. For Ashley Mitchell, power at Brooklyn High was something she could never accept losing. Yet now it was Maya, a quiet, mysterious, and different girl who was directly threatening the position Ashley had worked so hard to build. After a series of subtle bullying attempts and provocations that failed to achieve the desired effect, Ashley knew it was time to escalate things clearly and decisively. She needed a direct blow, one strong enough to make Maya completely lose her composure. She wanted the entire school to witness Maya's public humiliation, so no one would ever dare question or doubt her power again. The perfect moment was always during lunch, when the cafeteria was the busiest, and all eyes were focused on the center, watching every small interaction in this microcosm of society. Ashley decided to use this familiar space as the stage for her final performance. This would be the last time she allowed Maya to maintain that insufferable calm. At lunch that day, Ashley walked into the cafeteria with a composed yet icy expression, Brianna and Courtney right behind her. Maya had taken her usual seat, the corner table at the back of the room, the place she always chose to avoid unwanted attention. But today, everything would be different. Ashley had a clear, purposeful plan, and she was determined to carry it out perfectly. Ashley walked directly to the center of the room, where she usually sat, but her eyes remained fixed on Maya. The students nearby started to notice her, falling silent, curiosity building as they waited for something to happen. Ashley stood up, carrying her tray, and pretended to casually pass by Maya's table as if it were a mere coincidence. But as she got only a few steps away from Maya, Ashley suddenly increased her speed, deliberately bumping into Maya's shoulder with the full force of her body. The impact was strong enough to knock Maya's tray from her hands. A sharp, jarring noise echoed in the tense silence of the cafeteria as Maya's food scattered across the floor, a few drops of sauce splattering onto her pristine white shoes. Ashley froze right in front of Maya, a challenging, victorious smile flashing briefly across her face. She shrugged exaggeratedly, her eyes gleaming with the smug pleasure of thinking she had finally succeeded in making Maya angry, or at least causing her to lose that cold, detached expression. "Oh, sorry, didn't see you," Ashley said loudly, her voice dripping with sarcasm, causing the students in the cafeteria to snicker nervously, as if it were an automatic reflex whenever Ashley spoke. But just as quickly, the cafeteria fell into a dead silence. All eyes turned toward Maya, eagerly waiting for her reaction. Everyone was sure that this time, no matter how strong Maya was, she wouldn't be able to take it any longer. But what they witnessed next was completely the opposite. Maya didn't show any anger. She wasn't flustered, didn't panic, didn't rush to pick up the scattered food from the floor. Instead, she stood tall, in a natural, strong posture. Her eyes locked with Ashley's, calm, transparent. as though she had seen through Ashley's entire plan from the very beginning. Maya didn't say a word, but the gentle, mysterious smile that appeared on her lips held more power than any words could. That smile wasn't the smile of someone humiliated. It was the smile of someone in complete control of the situation. Someone completely unaffected by childish games. Ashley stared at Maya, a chill running down her spine. For the first time in her life, Ashley truly felt a strange fear slowly spreading within her mind. Maya's gaze and smile made Ashley feel like she was looking into something too deep, too mysterious, something she couldn't comprehend. Ashley's hand involuntarily trembled. She couldn't look away from Maya's face. Her quiet, calm expression had now become a public challenge to the power Ashley had always believed no one could doubt. A great doubt began to rise in Ashley, making her feel more unsettled than ever. She began to wonder what Maya was really like. Was she truly fearless? Or was Maya simply unlike anyone Ashley had ever bullied before? This sense of losing control made Ashley feel increasingly afraid. Meanwhile, Maya remained standing in the same spot, her eyes never leaving Ashley's, her smile still light but filled with coldness and defiance. Ashley finally had to look away. She quickly returned to her table, trying to hide her trembling hand. Whispers began to rise in the cafeteria, louder this time. "Oh my God, did you see that? Maya's not scared at all. Ashley, she's shaking, right?" Ashley gritted her teeth, struggling to suppress the fear growing clearer inside her. She realized that the game she had started had completely spiraled out of her control. And for the first time, Ashley Mitchell wondered if she could actually win against someone like Maya. A person who couldn't be subdued by the overwhelming force Ashley had always prided herself on. The calm smile Maya used to respond to Ashley in the cafeteria didn't last long. As she stepped out of the school gates, away from the curious stares and the whispers behind her, Maya felt her heart sink, pulling down the brief moment of confidence she had tried to project earlier. Beneath that cold exterior, a storm was quietly rising within the young girl. Maya never wanted to face situations like this again. Returning to the small house at the end of the quiet street, where she lived with her father, Maya slowly entered the living room and collapsed onto the old, familiar sofa. She raised a hand to cover her face, closing her eyes, trying to push away the heavy feeling weighing on her chest. Painful memories from her past, which she had always tried to avoid, suddenly flooded back, each detail vivid as if it had happened just yesterday. Maya remembered the last time she lost control. It was 2 years ago, at her old school in Chicago. A girl named Erica had provoked her for months, deliberately trying to anger Maya until she couldn't control her emotions any longer. In a brief moment, everything shattered. Maya reacted instinctively, using the martial arts techniques her father had taught her since childhood to defend herself, but she had misjudged her own strength. Erica ended up in the hospital with serious injuries, and Maya was forced to transfer schools to start over. Since that day, Maya had promised herself she would never lose control again. She didn't want to hurt anyone, especially not those who were trying to hurt her. But now, standing in the face of Ashley's cruel jokes and increasingly aggressive provocations, Maya felt that promise was being seriously tested. She knew that if she kept silent and endured, there might come a time when she couldn't control herself anymore. The thought terrified her. Lost in her thoughts, Maya heard familiar footsteps approaching from the door. Her father, Marcus Johnson, had just returned from his martial arts training. Marcus was a former professional fighter, once a rising star in the ring before an injury forced him to retire early. From a young age, Maya had been trained by her father, not only to defend herself, but also to develop inner strength and emotional control. Marcus always taught his daughter that martial arts wasn't just about fighting. It was about facing challenges with calmness and self-control. Marcus immediately noticed the unease on Maya's face as he entered the room. He set his bag down on the floor, walked over to sit beside her, and spoke in a warm, concerned voice. "What happened at school, sweetheart?" Maya opened her eyes, hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. She took a deep breath and began recounting everything that had happened at Brooklyn High, starting from her first day, Ashley Mitchell's attention, the subtle bullying, the escalating provocations, and especially the incident in the cafeteria. Marcus listened carefully to every detail, his face growing more serious with each word. When she finished, Maya lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper, as if she were trying to hide the weakness within her. "I don't know how much longer I can stay calm. I'm afraid that if this keeps happening, I'll lose control again, just like last time." Marcus placed his hand on her shoulder, his gaze full of love, but also incredibly serious. "Maya, I understand your fear. I know you don't want to hurt anyone, but sometimes you can't control what others do to you. The only thing you can control is how you choose to face it." Maya looked at her father, her eyes filled with helplessness and doubt. "But if I react, I'll hurt someone. I don't want that to happen again, Dad." Marcus gently shook his head, his voice firm yet calm. "You're misunderstanding, Maya. You don't start the fight, but you have to be the one to end it. Using martial arts doesn't necessarily mean hurting someone. It's about stopping the harm they want to cause you. Sometimes, if you stay silent and keep enduring, others will think they can keep hurting you without consequences." He paused for a moment, then continued in a soft but strong tone. "I taught you martial arts so you could understand the value of strength and self-control. I know you're capable of controlling yourself, and I believe you won't let the past repeat itself. But I also want you to understand that you don't have to passively endure injustice forever. Sometimes responding appropriately is the only way to protect yourself and stop the harm for good." Maya sat quietly, listening to her father's words, each sentence sinking deep into her heart, awakening something that had been dormant for a long time. She realized her father was right. Remaining silent forever wasn't the solution. If she truly wanted peace, she would have to stand up and end the current situation herself. Marcus gently pulled his daughter into an embrace, his voice a tender whisper in her ear, yet firm. "I've always believed in you, Maya. Remember, your greatest strength doesn't lie in your fists, but in the choice of when to stand up and protect yourself." Maya closed her eyes slightly, a feeling of relief slowly rising within her. She understood now. This battle wasn't something she had started, but she would be the one to end it, decisively and calmly. And this time, Maya knew exactly what she had to do. The next morning, as Maya stepped into the familiar hallway of Brooklyn High, she immediately felt the shift in the atmosphere. Something was different, spreading through the quiet whispers and the curious eyes following her every step. Maya knew right away it was no longer just teasing. Something more serious was unfolding. A heavy feeling rose in her chest, but this time she wasn't uneasy like before. After her conversation with her father the night before, Maya was ready to face it all. Just a few steps in, Maya saw the cause of the special attention. A small piece of paper was taped to her locker. Maya slowly approached, clearly seeing the carefully handwritten yet provocative message. "After school today, behind the gym. Be there if you don't want to be called a coward forever. Ashley Mitchell." Maya silently stared at the words for a long moment. Around her, other students stood in small groups, pretending to be busy. but in reality, they were silently watching her reaction. Everyone knew this wasn't just an ordinary threat. This was a public challenge that Ashley wanted everyone to witness. Maya understood clearly. Ashley was once again asserting her absolute power, forcing Maya to either submit or back down. Maya gently peeled the paper off, folded it neatly, and calmly tucked it into her jacket pocket. Her face remained cold, showing no signs of fear or confusion. But inside Maya's heart, thoughts were rising stronger than ever. She knew this time she couldn't stay silent like before. Ashley and her group wouldn't stop. They would never let up until they felt satisfied with their victory in front of everyone at the school. At that moment, from a distance, Ashley slowly walked down the hallway, followed by Brianna, Courtney, Zach, and Luke. Their footsteps echoed sharply in the strangely quiet space. Ashley looked directly at Maya, a cold, challenging smile appearing on her lips. Ashley's eyes gleamed with the usual confidence and arrogance she used to intimidate others. But this time Maya didn't look away. She calmly met Ashley's gaze, direct and determined. Ashley stepped closer, stopping right in front of Maya, intentionally speaking loud enough for the surrounding students to hear. "I hope you'll show up, Maya. I'm tired of seeing your pathetic, fake, tough face. This time, I'm going to teach you a lesson so you can understand your real place at Brooklyn High." Ashley paused, her smug smile widening as she continued in a more mocking tone. "Of course, you could always choose to be a coward. Just not show up and keep running like you always do." Small laughs came from Brianna and Courtney behind Ashley, making the hallway feel more tense than ever. Maya still didn't respond immediately. Instead, she kept her cold, composed gaze fixed on Ashley, and when she finally spoke, her voice was calm, steady, but carried an undeniable power. "I'll be there." With that simple statement, the entire hallway fell into an absolute silence. Ashley was slightly surprised. She hadn't expected Maya to accept the challenge so easily, but she quickly masked her surprise with a cold, confident smile. "Good. Don't disappoint me, Maya." Ashley turned and walked away, but deep down, a strange unease began to stir within her. Maya's calmness, once again, made Ashley question what she was trying to achieve. But now, she couldn't back down from the challenge. This power game had gone too far, and Ashley knew better than anyone else. This battle would determine her real position at Brooklyn High. As Ashley and her group walked away, other students quickly scattered, whispering about what had just transpired. Maya stood alone in the hallway, taking a deep breath. She knew this decision would bring her closer than ever to the limits she had set for herself. But Maya had no other choice. She was tired of hiding, tired of letting others think they could hurt her without facing any consequences. Maya remembered her father's words from last night. "You didn't start this fight, but you have to be the one to end it." Now, she understood that those words weren't just advice. They were a responsibility she had to take on herself. Maya didn't want to fight, but she couldn't let herself be knocked down again. Maya's heart began to calm. She slowly walked down the long hallway, determined and strong. A new sense of confidence began to stir within her, as though Maya had finally found the strength she had lost to her own fears. This afternoon, after school, behind the gym, Maya would stand up and face the biggest challenge she had encountered since stepping foot in Brooklyn High. She didn't know how this battle would end, but one thing Maya was sure of: she would never run again. That evening, the sky over Brooklyn was a dull gray, as if even the weather could sense the weight of the impending confrontation. Maya stepped out of her last class of the day with a quiet, burning determination in her chest. She walked down the school hallway, hearing the echo of each step she took on the tiled floor. Her heart beat fast. not from fear, but because she knew she was about to face something she had always avoided, a real fight, one where she couldn't stand on the sidelines any longer. As Maya turned the final corner of the hallway, the sports field behind the school came into view. A small crowd had already gathered, about 20 students, all whispering, anxiously waiting. Maya glanced at them, her eyes stopping on Ashley Mitchell, the one standing right in the middle of the crowd with that familiar, challenging air. Ashley stood tall, her arms crossed arrogantly in front of her chest, and behind her were Brianna, Courtney, Zach, and Luke. All of them looked at Maya with curiosity mixed with excitement, clearly waiting for an entertaining show. Ashley tilted her head slightly, a mocking smile appearing as Maya slowly walked closer. She took a step forward, her voice loud and clear, intentionally just loud enough for everyone to hear. "I thought you'd run away, like the scared little mouse you are, Maya. But I'm glad you still have a little courage to show up." Soft giggles rippled through the crowd behind Ashley, but Maya remained unmoved. She stared at Ashley calmly and deeply, her face void of any expression. That look, calm and resolute, made Ashley feel, for a moment, like something was off, as if she had just stepped into a situation beyond her control. But Ashley quickly pushed that feeling aside. She smirked, raising her voice so that the whole crowd could hear her. "Today, I'm going to teach you a lesson that you'll remember for the rest of your life. You need to understand your place here, your place as someone no one wants to see." Ashley stepped forward again, closing the gap between them to less than 2 meters. A tense air surrounded the crowd, all eyes now fixated entirely on the 2 central figures. Maya stood still, looking straight into Ashley's eyes with a coldness that was almost terrifying. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried such weight and determination that no one could ignore. "Ashley, you'll regret doing this." Maya's warning, soft but powerful, made the whole space around them seem to freeze. The crowd instantly fell silent, no one daring to even breathe too loudly. Ashley furrowed her brow, a vague sense of unease rising within her again. But her pride and arrogance wouldn't allow her to back down. She had to push forward to save face in front of everyone. "Oh, I'm so scared," Ashley mocked, trying to hide the growing unease within her. She turned back to Zach and Luke, nodding slightly as if signaling that it was time to act. Zach and Luke immediately stepped up, standing behind Ashley, their expressions full of challenge. Zach, tall and built like a football star, stood with his arms crossed, radiating a threatening presence. Luke, on the other hand, wore a mischievous grin, eager to engage in any sort of physical confrontation with a particular enthusiasm. Ashley believed that the pressure from her friends alone would be enough to make Maya back down without needing to resort to actual violence. But she was wrong. Maya stood her ground, showing no fear in the face of Ashley and her group's pressure. She simply watched them silently, as if she had already foreseen everything that was about to happen. Ashley grew frustrated and confused by Maya's chilling indifference. Her patience was starting to wear thin. "Enough, Maya. Who do you think you are, standing here challenging me?" Ashley stepped forward, getting closer, her eyes filled with anger and frustration. Maya looked deeply into Ashley's eyes once more, and in that moment she knew there was no turning back. She remembered her father's words. "You don't start the fight, but you have to be the one to finish it." Maya understood that this was the moment for her to stand up, to defend herself in the clearest and most decisive way possible. "I warned you," Maya said slowly, each word clear and deliberate. "But if you still want to continue, then be ready for the consequences." Ashley felt a slight unease in her chest at Maya's confident words, but she still forced a calm expression and turned to address the crowd behind her. "See this? This little girl still thinks she can threaten me." The crowd's laughter rang out again, but this time it was weaker, almost hesitant. It seemed that even those around them were starting to feel the shift in the air. They began to wonder if Ashley really had control of the situation. Maya stood firm, her gaze resolute and calmer than ever. She was no longer afraid, nor did she have any reason to avoid this confrontation. This fight wasn't something she had wanted, but it was happening, and she wouldn't allow herself to be knocked down again. The tense and heavy atmosphere enveloped the entire sports field behind the school. Everyone understood that what was about to happen in this moment would determine each person's fate and true standing, and Maya knew the final decisive battle had just begun. The tension in the air in the backyard of the school seemed to freeze for a moment before it exploded, all eyes fixed on Maya and Ashley. In that brief instant, Maya stood still, her breathing steady, her gaze cold and unwavering as she looked directly at Ashley, silently declaring that she would never back down again. Ashley felt a surge of unease rise within her, but her pride and the pressure from the curious eyes around her pushed her to act. She glanced at Zach, and immediately he stepped forward with a confident, arrogant look on his face, believing that his superior strength would be enough to quickly end this confrontation. Zach moved closer to Maya, a defiant expression on his face. He didn't say a word, just smirked and raised his hand, aiming to shove Maya to the ground. A move he had used on countless opponents on the football field. But Zach had completely misjudged his opponent this time. In an instant, before Zach's large hand could touch Maya, she smoothly dodged with a quick, astonishingly agile move. Maya stepped to the right, lightning fast, and grabbed Zach's wrist, using his own strength and momentum to twist his body around. A second later, Zach felt his balance completely lose control. Before he could process what had happened, Maya skillfully applied a pull and push technique, sending Zach crashing to the ground with a thud. The sound of the impact was deafening in the complete silence of the crowd. Zach lay sprawled on the ground, gasping in astonishment, his eyes wide in disbelief at what had just occurred. A towering, powerful football player like him had been taken down effortlessly in a split second by a girl as small as Maya. The astonishment was clear on the faces of every student witnessing this. No one could have predicted this outcome. Ashley stood frozen, her face visibly pale, the fear she had felt becoming clearer than ever. But before Ashley could regain her composure, Luke, still known for his love of stirring trouble, rushed forward with an angry expression, determined to restore his friend's honor. Luke said nothing. He charged directly at Maya, clenching his fist. But Maya, with the technique and calmness she had honed since childhood, was unfazed. She smoothly stepped aside just in time for Luke to rush past her, her movements as graceful as a dancer but precise in every detail. She immediately seized Luke's wrist, spun her body around, and locked his arm behind his back with an incredible move. Luke screamed in pain as his arm was twisted into a very uncomfortable position. He struggled, but the more he moved, the more intense the pain became. Maya held onto his arm, not causing any more pain, but enough for Luke to understand that resistance was futile. Just a few seconds later, Luke had no choice but to kneel, his face contorted in pain and embarrassment. In that moment, the entire crowd stood still, their eyes wide with shock and amazement, unable to believe what was happening before them. Maya slowly released Luke's arm, calmly stepped back one step, her gaze still cold and unwavering as she looked at Ashley, as if to affirm that she was not someone who could be easily defeated. For the first time in her life, Ashley felt true fear creeping into her mind. She had never imagined that her power could be challenged this severely. Zach and Luke, two of her closest, strongest friends whom she had always relied on, were now lying on the ground, hurting and humiliated by the girl they had once looked down on. Ashley's usual confidence quickly melted away, replaced by confusion and anxiety that grew with each passing second. Brianna and Courtney stood behind Ashley, too scared to step forward. They exchanged nervous, panicked glances. The crowd around them began to murmur, and this time, they were no longer talking about Maya as a victim, but as someone who had shocked and impressed everyone. Maya remained standing, taking a deep breath to calm herself. She didn't feel triumphant for taking down Zach and Luke, but she knew this was something she had to do. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she could no longer endure the senseless bullying. Ashley stood facing Maya, trying to conceal her fear and loss of composure with her usual arrogant expression. But now, she could no longer maintain that facade. Her voice trembled, filled with anger and confusion. "You think you've won?" Maya looked at Ashley, her gaze colder and clearer than ever before. Her voice rang out, loud enough for the entire crowd to hear. "I warned you. You chose this fight, not me." That simple sentence felt like a splash of cold water to Ashley's face. For the first time in her life, she realized there was nothing she could do to salvage this situation. The power she had once prided herself on was now crumbling in front of all the students in the school. In the absolute silence of the crowd, Maya slowly took a step back, her gaze still resolute and strong. She didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. She had officially ended this battle on her own terms. Maya had just turned to walk away, leaving behind the stunned silence of the crowd, when suddenly a scream of desperation and anger rang out from behind her. Ashley, with her face contorted in a loss of control, was no longer calm enough to consider her image or her honor. What she saw before her eyes was an unacceptable sight, the bitter defeat she never once imagined in her life. Rage surged within her, and Ashley charged at Maya from behind, hoping that this surprise attack would help her regain whatever dignity she had left. But Ashley was gravely mistaken. Maya had never let her guard down, as she had been trained too thoroughly to stay alert to any potential threat. As soon as Ashley touched Maya's back, in an instant as fast as lightning, Maya reacted with a perfect defensive move. She smoothly sidestepped, grabbing Ashley's wrist and twisting her body to gently pull, causing Ashley to lose her balance completely, nearly falling to the ground. But Maya didn't let Ashley fall. She held her in an unsteady position, just enough for Ashley to feel her own helplessness and utter failure. Ashley stared in panic at the ground beneath her, her body trembling with fear and humiliation. This was the first time in her life that Ashley truly felt how small and powerless she was. Once someone who believed she was strong, powerful, and invulnerable, she was now nothing more than a weak, struggling mess in the complete control of Maya. Maya leaned close to Ashley's ear, her voice a cold whisper, clear and cutting, like a sharp blade slicing into Ashley's pride with finality. "You were never strong, and you'll never control me." Those words were like a bullet to Ashley's heart. They didn't just completely shatter her false confidence, they erased any illusion of absolute power that she had carefully built and protected at all costs. Ashley shuddered, her breath quickened, her eyes wide with terror as the painful truth slowly sank deep into her mind. Maya slowly released her grip, gently letting Ashley stand on her trembling legs. Ashley staggered back a step, her eyes vacant as she stared into space. She glanced around, meeting the faces that once admired her, once feared her. But now all that remained was contempt and pity. A deep, unbearable pain spread throughout Ashley's body. This was the moment when the power she once held so firmly had completely shattered before everyone's eyes. Brianna and Courtney, who had always stood by Ashley, now quietly stepped back, their eyes avoiding her, no longer willing to be involved. Even Zach and Luke, who had only just gotten up after their own humiliations, simply lowered their heads in silence, showing no sign that they were ready to protect Ashley anymore. They had all abandoned her at the moment she needed them the most. Ashley felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness engulf her. She had once believed power was everything, but now that power had completely vanished, leaving a massive void that she didn't know how to fill. Tears began to well up in her eyes, but she forced herself to hold them back, unwilling to break down any further in front of the people around her. Maya stood still, her gaze calm and cold, directed toward Ashley. She didn't feel joy at Ashley's failure, but she understood that this was necessary to finally end this senseless battle. She was no longer the one who had to endure, and Ashley needed to realize that no one could control or bully others forever without facing consequences. Ashley slowly stepped back, her legs heavy as if dragging thousands of stones behind her. Every eye watched her slow, defeated steps. She turned away and fled, quickly leaving the school grounds in the deepest humiliation she had ever felt. Her power had completely crumbled, and she knew that she would never be able to regain it. When Ashley's figure disappeared from sight, the crowd began to murmur, a buzz of conversation rising like waves. But this time, the discussions were entirely different. They spoke about Maya with respect, with genuine admiration. Maya looked around and sighed softly in relief. Finally, she had done what her father always wanted: end the battle decisively and clearly, without causing unnecessary harm to anyone. Maya turned and walked away, leaving behind the schoolyard with an entirely different atmosphere. She knew that this battle had not only helped her rediscover herself, but also sent a powerful message to everyone who had witnessed it. True power never comes from threatening or dominating others, but from the strength within, from the courage and ability to face challenges without ever losing oneself. And that was the greatest victory Maya achieved in this battle. The next day, as the morning sunlight streamed through the windows and spread across the hallways of Brooklyn High, the entire school seemed to be immersed in an unfamiliar atmosphere that had never been felt before. If yesterday had been the day Ashley Mitchell's downfall, today was the day the entire school had to learn how to adjust to a new reality, where all the old orders had completely disintegrated. Ashley walked down the hallway with a heavy heart and a confused mind. Never before had she felt her steps so difficult, as if the familiar floor of this school had suddenly turned foreign. The gazes that once feared, admired, and even kept their distance from her had changed drastically. Now they were indifferent, avoiding her, or worse, filled with pity. This was a feeling Ashley had never experienced before, and it was slowly eroding her once great self-esteem. Ashley lowered her head, trying to avoid the scrutinizing glances around her. The whispers no longer carried admiration or fear. Instead, they were filled with curiosity mixed with fake sympathy. She quickly realized that the power she had spent years building and reinforcing had completely collapsed after just one afternoon. Now, she was nothing but a faint shadow in the crowded hallway. Meanwhile, in another corner of the hallway, Maya walked into the school with a calm and natural expression, as though nothing had happened. She showed no signs of joy or smugness from yesterday's victory, for in her heart she had never seen it as a battle worth winning. Maya simply wanted to live peacefully, study normally, and not become anyone's target. But Brooklyn High no longer looked at Maya with cold or distant eyes. The students who had once stood by, silently watching from afar, now began to look at Maya with a mix of admiration and curiosity. They didn't fully understand her, but they knew one thing for certain. Maya was not weak, and she was not someone who could be easily defeated by any pressure. A few students nodded as they greeted her as she passed, while others silently observed her with respect. Maya responded to all with a gentle, sincere smile, but she had no intention of taking Ashley's place. Maya had never wanted to be the ruler or control others. She simply wanted to be respected and live life the way she chose. Not far from Maya, Ashley stood silently by her locker, her hands trembling, her palms wet with sweat as she clearly overheard the murmurs around her. Ashley has really lost everything. I never thought she'd have a day like this. Yeah, from being a queen to becoming the laughingstock of the whole school in just one afternoon. Ashley fought back tears, her heart aching as though being suffocated. She realized that the power she had once thought was endless was in fact fragile and could disappear so easily. Brianna and Courtney, her once closest allies, now walked silently past her without saying a word. Even Zach, who had always been ready to protect his sister, now stood from a distance, looking at her with disappointment and helplessness. At the same time, Luke, who had always enjoyed causing trouble, now quietly stayed away from her, as if Ashley was something he no longer wanted to be associated with. Ashley realized the painful truth that the power she had relied on was entirely based on fear and fake admiration. Once that vanished, she had nothing but loneliness and shame. The more Ashley's downfall became evident, the more uncomfortable Maya felt. She never wanted Ashley to suffer the pain and isolation she had once endured. Even though Ashley had been the one to hurt her, Maya understood all too well what it felt like to have the whole world turn its back on you. But Maya knew this wasn't her fault. Ashley had chosen her own way of living, the way she treated others, and this outcome was simply the inevitable consequence. Maya couldn't change that reality, but she also didn't want to get caught up in the power struggle again. She was not Ashley's successor, and she certainly didn't want to create a new power hierarchy. Maya gently walked down the hallway, keeping her gaze ahead, avoiding any curious eyes. But whether she wanted it or not, she had already become a new symbol at Brooklyn High. A symbol of courage, of the ability to stand firm against injustice without losing herself. Each step Maya took echoed in the school hallway like a clear affirmation. True power doesn't come from controlling others, but from inner strength and the ability to uphold one's own principles. While Ashley tried to cling to the shattered remnants of her glorious past, Maya calmly continued down the path she had always believed in. Today marked an irreversible change at Brooklyn High, the collapse of false power, and the rise of the genuine values that Maya represented. No one knew what the future would hold, but one thing was clear. Brooklyn High would never be the same again. The atmosphere at Brooklyn High gradually returned to normal after the recent events, but everyone knew one thing for sure. What had happened in the past few days had left an indelible mark in the minds of every student here. In this new order, Ashley Mitchell was no longer the queen with absolute power, while Maya Johnson, who had never craved power, had inadvertently become a symbol of true courage and strength. In the cafeteria during the lunch that day, everyone was still whispering about the sudden changes at Brooklyn High. Maya sat alone at a table in the corner of the room as usual, not at all concerned about the curious stares directed at her. Meanwhile, Ashley sat not far away, but no one sat with her. Her surrounding tables were completely empty. She sat silently, her eyes vacant, as she stared at the tray of food in front of her, trying to hide the overwhelming sense of shame consuming her. Maya observed Ashley's situation from a distance, feeling no sense of triumph. Instead, she felt a deep empathy, for she understood what it felt like to be lonely and isolated. After a moment of hesitation, Maya gently stood up, took her tray of food, and slowly walked toward the table where Ashley was sitting. The entire cafeteria fell silent in an instant. Every eye was on the two girls, anxiously awaiting what would happen next. Ashley slowly looked up, her eyes wide in surprise as she saw Maya standing in front of her. She couldn't say a word, her throat choking with shock and fear. Maya looked directly into Ashley's eyes, her own gaze no longer filled with anger or hatred, but with a calm, clear strength never seen before. "It's all over now," Maya said softly but clearly, each word loud enough for everyone to hear. "I don't intend to continue this pointless fight. I hope you feel the same." Maya's simple but powerful words echoed through the silent cafeteria. Ashley froze, her body feeling as if it had turned to stone, and the humiliation and defeat engulfed her once again. But deep inside, Ashley realized that Maya didn't want to humiliate her further. This was simply a clear, decisive declaration that it was time to move on. Maya didn't say another word. She turned and walked away, leaving Ashley behind along with the focused gazes of the entire school. Maya's steps were light and serene, without any sense of pride or arrogance. She simply left with the dignity of someone who didn't need victory, recognition, or power from anyone else. Ashley sat frozen in place, the pain and shame overwhelming her in the prolonged silence. Those around her gradually turned away, continuing their meals in quiet whispers, leaving Ashley to face the harsh reality of what she had just experienced. The power she had once believed to be invincible had completely vanished, leaving a void that Ashley didn't know how to fill. As Maya stepped out of the cafeteria, she felt the gentle sunlight on her face, soothing the deep wounds she had once endured. She knew that life at Brooklyn High would now be easier, not just for her, but for many others who had suffered under the subtle oppression of the false power Ashley once represented. But more importantly, Maya realized the true value of power and authority. True power was not in the ability to control, suppress, or bully others. It wasn't about proving who was stronger, or who would be the final victor. True power was the ability to master oneself, to maintain one's self-respect and calm in the face of life's toughest challenges. When Maya walked away, no one doubted or gossiped about her silence and coldness anymore. All the students at Brooklyn High now understood that Maya never sought power in the way Ashley had. Maya simply wanted to live a life where human dignity was respected, where no one had to endure harm from others for the sake of some illusory power. That profound message spread throughout the school, slowly sinking into the hearts of every student. Those who had once stood by silently, participated, or witnessed bullying began to reflect on themselves more seriously. Brooklyn High was no longer a place where power was built on fear and oppression. Now, everyone understood that true strength was the courage to stand up and protect one's values, never allowing anyone to diminish or control them. The story of Maya and Ashley became a valuable lesson that no one at Brooklyn High would ever forget. It reminded them that no matter where they were, or what the circumstances, the most important thing was the ability to remain true to oneself, to confidently face challenges without losing oneself to external pressures. And that is the truest form of power a person can have, the power of self-respect, courage, and inner strength that never bends before anyone. Maya's story showed us clearly that true strength does not lie in bullying or controlling others, but in the ability to maintain self-respect, resilience, and calm in the face of life's challenges. The greatest power each person can attain is the power to control themselves. And what about you? If you found yourself in Maya's shoes, how would you face the bullies? If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to help us spread positive values to more people. Thank you for always being with us and listening.
I am not okay. I'm barely getting by. I'm losing track of days. I'm losing sleep at night. I am not okay. I'm hanging on the rail. So if I say I'm fine, just know I learned to hide it well. I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life. But I know God knows when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. It's not okay, but we're all gonna be alright. I woke up today, I almost stayed in bed. I had the devil on my back, and voices in my head. Some days it all ain't bad, some days it all gets worse. Some days I swear I'm better off laying in that dirt. Well, I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life. But God knows, I know, when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. It's not okay, but we're all gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. I know one day we'll see the other side. The pain will wash away in a holy water time. We all gonna be alright. I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life. But God knows, I know, when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. We're not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. I'm not okay, and that's alright. Lessons that Hilltop knows nothing about. They to listen carefully. You know who wanna get you out. You know your friends, and when you're caught up in adversity, that's at the college where your knowledge grew extensively. Cause in a school we never learned physiology. Say that the heart are the dirtiest part of the body. But when you got there, you know that it make you fearless. Yes, sir. I know I'm not walking alone. He's walking beside me. God is my fortress. Cause when you got less, there is no weakness. No, right now I'm mighty than ever. The more them fight, the other stronger I get. The less will teach you less. You don't know nothing about. The less will teach you less. You don't know nothing about. Fire is more reflective, yes, than cussing people and running your mouth. Stay firm, maintain your happiness. Keep them talking and let it come out. Some will hate you from the cradle to the grave. They'll attack you and defeat you like a slave. Remember when they killed my son outside my gate? Then try to drive me back, but I got up with my faith. Cause when you got blessed, you know that it make you fearless. Yes, sir. I know I'm not walking alone, he's walking beside me. God is my fortress. Cause when you got blessed, there is no weakness. No, why? Right now I'm mighty than ever. The more them fight, the other stronger I get. But when you got less, know that it make you fearless. Yes, sir. I know I'm not walking alone. He's walking beside me. God is my fortress. Cause when you got less, yes, there is no weakness, no one. Like now I'm mighty than ever. The more them fight, the other stronger I get. Like now I'm mighty than ever. The more them fight, the other stronger I get. Right now I'm mighty than ever. The more them fight, and the stronger I get.
A rough situation, you know. When I'm behind bars and no family member not even remembering, no one not even visiting. So me I say, tears running down my face with food and clothes in our hands at the prison gate. Yeah, another visit I must pay to a friend who's confined by the law and the state. And I pray for divine intervention. And I pray he'll receive salvation. And I pray for his good transformation. And I pray for my sister in captivity. I pray she hear your voice with clarity. I pray for her protection and security. And I pray. Can't imagine how scared you are. For years been restricted by walls and prison bars. Yeah, being told when to sleep, when to wake up a bath, or when to eat. And I pray for divine intervention. And I pray we'll receive salvation. And I pray for his good transformation. And I pray. I pray for my sister in captivity. I pray she'll hear your voice with clarity. I pray for her protection and security. And I pray. Sin have you bound and trapped, not free. Only through Christ can you have this liberty. Even before you serve your time, Just remember when he was on the cross, he had you on his mind. And I pray for divine intervention. And I pray he'll receive salvation. And I pray for his good transformation. And I pray, I pray, I pray. I pray for my sister in captivity. I pray she hear your voice with clarity. I pray for her protection and security. And I pray, I pray, I pray. Hey, tears running down my face with food and clothes in my hands at the prison gate. Yeah, another visit I must pay to a friend who's confined by the law of the state. And I pray for divine intervention. And I pray he'll receive salvation. And I pray for his full transformation. And I pray, I pray, I pray. I pray for my sister in captivity. I pray she hear your voice with clarity. I pray for her protection and security. And I pray, I pray. Hey, sin have you bound and trapped not free. Only through Christ can you have this liberty. And before you serve your time, just remember when he was on the cross, he had you on his mind. And I pray for divine intervention. And I pray he'll receive salvation. And I pray for his good transformation. And I pray, I pray, I pray. I pray for my sister in captivity. I pray she'll hear your voice with clarity. I pray for her protection and security. And I pray, I pray, I pray. I pray for divine intervention. I pray he'll receive salvation. And I pray for his good transformation. And I pray, I pray, I pray. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. My brothers and sisters, you're only confined to be refined. You're not forgotten.
Loving Father in heaven, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I come before you at this particular moment. I hold your word that speaks of you. This is the will you have to my life. I've woken up this morning, Father, to thank you. Thank you, Lord, for speaking to me. Thank you, Lord, for revealing yourself to me. This word that I hold in my hand speaks of you. It is life and spirit, and my life depends on it. Thank you for the Holy Spirit that is speaking to me, the one that you promised to send to my life, so that, Lord, it can teach me to all righteousness. Thank you, Father. Help me to commit myself to this word and to live according to what you have revealed. Thank you, Father. I honor you and I praise you. As I start the day, I commit everything unto your able hands. All my ways, all the activities of the day, I place them unto your able hands, Father. I know you will guide me. I know you will protect me. Father, in the name of Jesus, I come against any evil spirits, any obstacles, any wiles of the devil that he might place on my path. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your faithfulness. I know, Lord, you are with me during this day. And as I close this Bible devotion hour, I know, Father, you are with me. Thank you for you have heard and answered my prayer. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray.